Tabletop Tactics, and welcome to this video about a whole new detachment from the Grotmas Advent Calendar. We are trying to cover these every single day, so hit subscribe if you want to be the first to know about all the new goodness in these detachments. Today we're talking Space Marines, and in particular the Librarius Conclave and the Psychic Brethren of the Adeptus Astartes. The Librarius Conclave then, what is it all about? Well, it looks like a very flexible detachment because its rules psychic disciplines allows you at the start of each battle round to select a psychic discipline that will then give you a buff to the Adeptus Astartes Psyker units in your army. Now that'll be units that you have a librarian attached to. So you've got your Terminator librarian, your regular librarian, and your Phobos librarian. So a lot of these buffs are going to be affecting those models and the units that they're with. So the first up is the Biomancy discipline. So if you select this one, you add 2 to the move characteristic of models in this unit. That's really nice at making your units just that little bit faster and moving them around the board. We then have the Divination discipline that allows you to reroll a hit roll of 1 and a wound roll of 1, which is very nice on some of the more shooty units. You also then have the Pyromancy discipline, which is each time a ranged attack by a model in this unit is made at an enemy within 12, you increase the AP by 1. Now that to me is really spicy on something like the Terminator librarian. Think about those Storm Bolters, especially because he already gives you sustained hits. You have the Telekinesis discipline, which is when you're suffering a ranged attack, you can subtract 1 from the strength of the characteristic affecting you. And then the Telepathy discipline, which effectively allows you to ignore all modifiers to hit rolls and stuff like that to keep you a little bit more reliable. This is a really interesting detachment rule. You are going to have to lean into it though. I'm imagining you might want to take 1 of each librarian at least, or maybe double up and have 3 of each librarian to make sure as many units as possible within your army are benefiting from these buffs. It's nice that you can at the start of the battle round pick 1 and just sort of get that for the whole rest of the battle round. That's very, very nice. And the flexibility of you being able to choose them depending on what you want to achieve, especially for something like Pyromancy that needs you to be closer, you can use that when you get into range. So I'm imagining if you lean into it can be super, super powerful. But let's take a look at the enhancements. First up then is Prescience. Most of these enhancements are going to be put on your librarian characters because they're all Adeptus Astartes Psyker models, excluding Terminators for this particular one with Prescience. And what Prescience allows you to do is once per turn, if an enemy unit ends up finishing a move, charge, advance, anything like that, fallback, within 9 inches of you, you can then move up to D6, which is very, very nice indeed. And you can move a whole 6 inches if you have the Divination discipline active when you use it. Next up is Celerity. This allows an Adeptus Astartes Psyker unit to declare a charge after they have advanced, and if Biomancy is in play as your discipline, then you can also fall back and charge. This is just all the time, so it's just a buff for that unit and doesn't have any exclusions like Prescience, so you can take this on any librarian character you want to. It's a really nice piece of toolkit. Next is Obfuscation. This is very, very nice indeed. This effectively all the time denies your opponent from using Overwatch against you, and if the Telepathy discipline is active, it also then effectively gives you an 18-inch range you can't shoot me ability. Like we've seen in other stratagems like the Cloud of Flies kind of thing, you pop it and then your opponent can't shoot you unless they're close enough to you, effectively giving you somewhat of a lone operative on that unit. Rounding out the enhancements then we have Fusillade. This is again on one of the librarian characters and allows you to have anti-monster 5 and anti-vehicle 5 on your ranged attacks. In addition, if the Pyromancy discipline is active, you'll also get sustained hits, and if Telekinesis is active, you'll also get an additional 6 inches to your range. This is very nice indeed. Maybe not quite as powerful as the previous 2, but a really nice buff on a unit if you've got a particularly strong ranged weapon in there. What I like about these enhancements is they're really interestingly paired with a lot of the disciplines, so as soon as you start thinking about what discipline you want to use, you will get extra potency from some of these enhancements and the stratagems, which we'll take a look at right now. The first of our stratagems is Sensory Assault. This is a really interesting stratagem that allows you to pick a librarian model essentially and pick a unit within 18-inch range of it and pin them. When that unit is pinned, they then -2 from their move, advance, and charges, all of that kind of stuff. So it starts slowing them down, which is very, very interesting indeed. In addition, if the telepathy discipline is active, then you also force them to take a battle shock test, subtracting 1 from the result. This is a really nice way of just shutting a unit down, especially if they've deep struck near you or rapidly ingressed. You can suddenly just be like, bam, and pin them, and then they'll suffer either a battle shock test if you're in the right discipline, or potentially just be much slower at reaching you, and you might deny them their plan. Of course, Armor of Contempt is here as a defensive strat, but we also then have Fiery Shield. The way this works is a bit convoluted in its wording, but effectively, if your enemy wants to charge you, you can pick a unit within 18 inches of one of your Psyker units that has received that charge and cast a Fiery Shield. What that will do is to your opponent's unit that has charged you, they will suffer a -1 to hit when attacking. That's very nice. But in addition, if the Pyromancy discipline is active, you also make your opponent's weapons hazardous. It's quite hilarious. You might have a unit that's been charged by your opponent, and you can just cast this firewall effectively, slowing them down and making them worse at hitting you, and also potentially making their weapons explode. We then have Iron Arm, which is kind of a more aggressive version of something like Fire Shield. It works in much the same way though. So effectively, if you have a unit within 18 inches of your Psyker, you can then cast this stratagem, kind of like a spell, much like you kind of had back in the days of the Psychic phase, but this is a really nice one as well because it gives you +1 strength to one of your units when they're fighting and +2 strength if you're in the Biomancy discipline. What's important about these strats as well is you can use a Psyker unit to cast them on another unit. So if you say have a Librarian and a unit of Intercessors, it can use this stratagem on a unit of Blade Guard or Terminators or something else that you might want to be fighting because you can just put it on an Adeptus Astartes infantry unit. It's very, very nice indeed, and if you want to plan around it with the disciplines, quite potent. We also have Assail, which is effectively a Psychic Grenades. You pick a unit within 18 inches of one of your Adeptus Astartes Psyker units, and as long as your Psychic model can see, they can effectively cast this Psychic Grenade, which if you're in the Telekinesis discipline, will get a +1 to it. You roll 66, and on a 4-up, they take a mortal wound, which again, if you're in the right discipline, will be going off on 3s, so it's a nice way of getting a little bit of extra mortal wound output out of your Psykers. Finally, then we have Prescient Precision, which allows you to, if you haven't shot yet, put lethal hits on your ranged weapons, which is really nice. And if you're in the Divination discipline, also ignore cover. This is really nice on a Psyker in a bit more of a shooty unit and helps you just upgun your weapons, which is always very, very useful. That is the Librarius Conclave. It's a very interesting detachment, and I'm not sure how I feel about it straight out of the gate. What I do like about it is how much flexibility and how many options there are. I think if you really, really lean into it, it's really quite powerful. However, it does rely on you focusing on that build, but that's what I like about some of these detachments. They're not a one size fits all or going to catch every single unit, but they allow you to unlock a kind of really unique playstyle for an army if that's what you're into. And more choice is what we want in the game overall, so that's just nice. It's more ways to play the game. I really look forward to running this in a battle report very soon. If you want to see said battle report, please head over to On Demand at tabletoptactics.tv, where we're trying to run as many of these detachments as possible and as soon as we can. Pretty much every battle report we're going to be releasing over the next few weeks and months as we get through all these detachments will have a lot of these new detachments in them, sometimes facing off against each other or just being run in a kind of a showcase battle report. It's a lot of fun and it's really exciting to see them in action. So if you want all of that and more, please do head over to On Demand and consider signing up. Until next time, I've been James Jordan, aka The Bard, and we'll see you tomorrow for the next detachment.
Enjoying today's video? Here's a quick look at what we've released this week for our On Demand members. These videos join a huge library of exclusive content that grows every week for our On Demand community. If you want instant access to all of these videos and more, head over to tabletoptactics.tv or download our app and sign up today. And currently, we have an introductory offer for new customers, so there's never been a better time to join On Demand.